Hello students, we are once more here to finalize our discussion over the antidiabetic agents. In our previous 3 discussions, we had seen that what is diabetes, types of diabetes, etiology of the diabetes, pathophysiology of the diabetes and the treatment options for the diabetes. If you look upon the treatment of the diabetes, they fall under 2 categories, parenteral and the oral hypoglycemics. Oral hypoglycemics had the advantage over the parenteral. Parenteral formulations must be given in the injection form only. On the other hand, oral formulations can be used with the oral route, as the name is indicating. So, in this lecture, now I am going to discuss about the remaining part of the oral antidiabetic agents. So, before proceed, let me sum up about the classification, so that we can align our discussion with the previous lectures. So, as far as oral hypoglycemics are concerned, they are classified in insulin secretagogues, insulin sensitizers, biguanides, DPP4 inhibitors and the alpha glucosidase inhibitors. So, oral hypoglycemics are classified in 5 categories. Insulin secretagogues means they enhance the insulin secretion. They enhance the insulin secretion. Sulfonylureas and meglitinides represent this class. Insulin sensitizers increases the sensitivity of the peripheral tissues. They increases the sensitivity of the peripheral tissues towards the insulin, and they are represented by the thiazolidine diones. More commonly, they are known as the glitazones. Thiazolidine diones are also known as the glitazones. Biguanides, again they are represented by the metformin and the fenformin. They again increase the insulin sensitivity. Alpha glucosidase inhibitors, this class decreases the absorption of glucose. DPP4 inhibitors, they are dipeptidyl, they are dipeptidyl peptidase 4 inhibitors. So, they inhibit this enzyme. Now, in this class we will discuss about, so let me change the color, we will discuss about the meglitinides, biguanides, alpha glucosidase inhibitors and thiazolidine diones. So, in our this lecture we will discuss these 4 classes: meglitinides, let me say it is 1, then biguanides 2, thiazolidine diones 3 and alpha glucosidase inhibitor 4. So, let me start it one by one. First class is the meglitinides. See, meglitinide is the prototype structure. It is benzoic acid derivative. See, let me explain it. If we look upon the structure of glibenclamide, this is the structure of glibenclamide. We can divide it in two parts. The part, this is called sulfonyl urea moiety and this is non sulfonyl urea moiety. So, it is made up of two parts, sulfonyl urea moiety and non sulfonyl urea moiety. So, the class meglitinide is derived by the combination of benzoic acid and non sulfonyl urea. So, non sulfonyl urea moiety of the glibenclamide and benzoic acid were combined to derive the new class that is known as the meglitinide. Examples are meglitinide itself, rapaglinide and nataglinide. Rapaglinide and nataglinide. So, these are the three representative examples of the class meglitinide. So, let us have a look over the mechanism of action of this class called meglitinides. Its action is similar to that of the sulfonyl urea. So, read this line and be with me. These agents exert their effect by inducing the closure of ATP sensitive potassium channel. By inducing the closure of the ATP sensitive potassium channel found on the, where they are present? They are present on the plasma membrane of the pancreatic beta cell. Already we had discussed this mechanism in sulfonylureas, but I repeat it here again to align it with the meglitinides. So, meglitinides, you can see this meglitinide is written here. So, they bind to so called sulfonylureas receptor. Where they are binding? They are binding with the so called sulfonylureas receptor that is present over the plasma membrane of the pancreatic beta cell. Now, as soon as they are binding with the sulfonylurea receptor, they are inducing the closure. They are inducing the closure of ATP sensitive. They are inducing the closure of ATP sensitive potassium channel. They are inducing the closure of the ATP sensitive potassium channel. So, my mean to say is very simple. Meglitinide bind with the sulfonylurea receptors that is present over the plasma membrane of the pancreatic beta cell and induces the closure of the potassium channel, that is ATP sensitive. By the closure, they decrease or almost inhibit the flow of the potassium ions. By this closure, they are inhibiting the flow of the potassium ion. Due to inhibition of flow of potassium ion, concentration of potassium ion rises. Concentration of the potassium ion rises inside the pancreatic beta cell. the concentration of the potassium ion rises inside the pancreatic beta cell. As soon as concentration of potassium ion increases inside the pancreatic beta cell, it promote the influx. It promote the influx of calcium ion. So, let me repeat again. Obstruction of the flow of potassium ion results in the concentration of the potassium ion inside the pancreatic cell. This rise in concentration of the potassium ion inside the pancreatic cell promote the influx of calcium ion. It promote the influx of the calcium ion inside the pancreatic cell. What happens? As a result, it ensure the brisk release of the insulin. It ensures the brisk release of the insulin, and with this same mechanism, sulfonylureas also act. Students, remember this point, that whether it is sulfonylureas or it is maglitinides, both are binding at the same site. Both are binding at the same site, and the site is called sulfonylurea receptor. So, you have to remember this, where sulfonylurea receptors are present, they are present over the plasma membrane of the pancreatic beta cell. So, therefore, both the classes sulfonylureas and maglitinides are known to enhance the insulin secretion. That is why, therefore, they are called insulin secretagogues. This is the first example of this class, maglitinide. This is rapaglinide. Molecular formula is C27H36N2O4. Molecular weight is 452.58. Dose is 0.5 milligram to 2 milligram daily. It exists as a white to off-white powder. It is analog of maglitinide. Please remember this line. It is the analog of maglitinide, having 3 additional substituents. The first is ethoxy. The first substituent, extra substituent is the ethoxy. Where it is present? It is present at the meta position. Isobutyl, this is again additional substituent, and the piperidine ring. So, all these substituent create the difference between metaglinide and rapaglinide. Therefore, rapaglinide is considered as the analog of maglitinide, having additional substituents. How many they are number in? They are 3 in number, and namely they are ethoxy, isobutyl and the piperidine ring. Ethoxy is present at the meta position. So, this is first substituent. The second substituent is the isobutyl chain, and the third substituent is the piperidine ring. So, these 3 substituents make the difference between the maglitinide and the rapaglinide. It is indicated as an adjunct to diet and exercise. Student, remember this line, that physical exercises are insulin sparing. They decreases the dependency, they decreases the dependency of muscle cells over the insulin to get the glucose. So, they are repaglinide are used as adjunct to diet and exercise to improve glycemic control in adults with type 2 diabetes mellitus. Now, here is one more point to remember, that it induces fast onset short lasting insulin release. Now, what is the significance of this line here? It induces fast onset short lasting insulin release. So, here by this line I am correlating here, it have a lower risk of the serious hypoglycemia. How it is possible? Here read this line again. It induces fast onset short lasting insulin release, means it is insulin release is so fast and short acting, it is not going to be happen for long. So, therefore, it is reducing the risk of the serious hypoglycemia. How it is administered? It is administered before each major meal to control postprandial hyperglycemia. So, repaglinide is having the advantage over the sulfonylureas, that they are having the less chance to cause the hypoglycemia. Next, this is the next member of this metaglinide series, that is nataglinide. It is phenylalanine analogs of the nataglinide. This is the phenyl analog. If we see on the structure, this is called phenylalanine. So, nataglinide is the phenylalanine analog of the meglitinide. It exists as white 2-O-white powder. Its formula is C19H27NO3, molecular weight is 370.42. It is again having the same use, that of metaglinide, meglitinide, that treatment of non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus in conjunction with diet and exercise. So, we will find this line each and everywhere when we discuss about the oral hypoglycemics, that it is used in conjunction, it is used in conjunction with this. Its dose is 60 to 120 milligram daily. Metabolized, it is metabolized via hydroxylation followed by glucouronidation. It is metabolized by hydroxylation followed by glucouronidation. The major metabolites have less antidiabetic activity than the nataglinide. And isoprene, there is one more metabolite, isoprene minor metabolites has antidiabetic activity comparable to that of nataglinide. So, one of its metabolite having the antidiabetic activity that are comparable with the nataglinide. Now, come to the next class, that is known as biguanides. This class of biguanide, what it, how it acts. There is a one new word, euglycemic, hypoglycemic. Hypoglycemic you have listened number of times. Hypoglycemic. Hypoglycemic means low sugar. So, sulfonylureas and meglitinides are hypoglycemics, but biguanides are euglycemic. What does it mean? It means euglycemic means they maintain the level of the blood sugar at normal. They maintain the level of the blood sugar at normal. That is why they are known as the euglycemic. So, students, remember this line, I am writing it again here, that biguanides are the class biguanide is known as euglycemic rather than the hypoglycemic. So, students, remember this line, biguanides are euglycemic rather than hypoglycemic. Means it does not stimulate pancreatic beta cell, it does not cause insulin release, but presence of insulin is essential for their action. In absence of insulin, biguanides they can't act. How they are acting? They act by reducing the hepatic glucose production and by enhancing insulin sensitivity. See here, their mechanism of action, they are acting by reducing hepatic glucose production and by enhancing insulin sensitivity. How biguanides achieve this mechanism? How it achieve this target? This target is achieved by the 3 steps, or we can say 3 methods. So, let me sum up these 3 methods. It is suppress hepatic gluconeogenesis and glucose output from the liver. It enhances insulin mediated glucose uptake and disposal in skeletal muscle and fat. Students, mind these sentences, these are very crucial. So, they suppress hepatic gluconeogenesis and glucose output from the liver. It enhances insulin mediated glucose uptake and disposal in the skeletal muscle and fat. They interfere with the mitochondrial respiratory chain and promotes peripheral glucose utilization. That is very important. So, they by these 3 ways biguanides ensure their euglycemic action. Now, have a look over the structures that are available. Metformin, why we are calling it metformin? Because 2 methyl groups are present here, that is why it is called metformin. Fenformin, 1 hydrogen is replaced with the phenyl, that is why it is called fenformin. Butformin, because 1 group is replaced with the butyl. So, these are the representing examples of the biguanides. 2 biguanides antidiabetic, namely fenformin and metformin, were introduced in the 1950s. But unfortunately, in 2003, due to lactic acidosis, fenformin was withdrawn from the market. Fenformin was withdrawn from the market due to the high risk of lactic acidosis in year 2003, and it differs markedly from sulfonylureas. How? See, they causes little or no hypoglycemia in non-diabetic subjects. Means non-diabetic subjects are safe if they are using biguanides, and even in diabetic hypoglycemia is rare. So, high chances of hypoglycemia are less in case of the biguanides. So, let us see its example metformin. Metformin formula is C4H11 and 5 hydroxyl and molecular weight is 165. It exists as a white crystalline powder. It is hygroscopic in nature, hence to be stored in the airtight containers. Its IUPAC name is 1,1-dimethyl biguanide hydrochloride. It is indicated as an adjunct to diet and exercise to increase glycemic control in adults. Now, the point to be remembered, pediatric patients. So, metformin can be used safely in the pediatric patients 10 years of age and older diagnosed with the type 2 diabetes. If some of children have developed this type 2 diabetes, so this metformin can be used if they are above the age of 10 years, so they can be used. Dose is 0.5 to 3 milligram daily and it is used in divided dose. As far as its metabolism is concerned, metformin is excreted as unchanged drug in urine and does not undergo the hepatic metabolism. So, it bypasses hepatic metabolism. Now, our next class is thiazolidine diones. Thia, aza, on. So, this class representing is thia, aza, diones. So, 3 characters it is representing diones, 2 ketone groups are present there, 1 and 2, and thiazolidinone diones. So, this is the ring that contains sulfur, thia and the nitrogen. This class of sulfonil example, it act over a PPAR gamma receptor. So, this thiazolidine dione is considered as the class of PPAR gamma agonist and it is commonly referred as the glitazones. These agents were developed with when chlorofluoric acid were being screened for their anti-hyperglycemic and lipid lowering activity. So, they are result or derived as a result of chlorofluoric acid analogues, which were tested for anti-hyperglycemic and lipid lowering activity. Actually, chlorofluoric acid derivatives are known for their lipid lowering capacity, but in turn they were also tested for this anti-hyperglycemic action. So, examples are there pioglitazone and rosiglitazone, but similarly unfortunately rosiglitazone is again banned in India in 2010. Why? Due to increased risk of myocardial infarction, CHF, stroke and the death. So, these were the some reasons due to which this pioglitazone was withdrawn from the market. Now, mechanism of action, they are the selective agonist for the nuclear peroxisome proliferating activated receptor, that is called PPAR. So, it is a subfamily, it is so it act over the gamma subfamily of this PPAR receptor, and where it is expressed mainly in the fat cells, also in muscle cells and some other cells also. It enhances the transcription of several insulin responsive genes and reduce insulin resistance. Remember this line, reduce insulin resistance. How? By enhancing GLUT4 expression, and translocation. So, my dear students, entry of glucose into the muscle and fat is improved. This was the major hurdle of the action of insulin that was causing the diabetes. So, PPAR gamma agonist ensure the entry of the glucose into muscles and fat, and that is why this is the primary action to enhance peripheral insulin sensitivity. Hepatic gluconeogenesis is also suppressed. So, this is the mechanism of action how thiazolidine dione acts. Now, let us see, this is the example pioglitazone. It is white or almost white crystalline powder. It is indicated as adjunct to the diet and exercise to improve glycemic control, and it is also used in combination. It is also used in combination with metformin and the glimepiride. Dose is 15 milligram to 30 milligram and 45 milligram. As far as its metabolism is concerned, it is extensively metabolized by both hydroxylation and oxidation. It is metabolized by hydroxylation and the oxidation, and resulting metabolites are partly converted into the glucouronide or sulfate conjugate. So, this pioglitazone is metabolized by hydroxylation and the oxidation. Next drug in this category is the rosiglitazone. It is very similar to the pioglitazone, white crystalline powder, same indication, dose is different, its dose is 1 milligram to 2 milligram and 4 milligram. It is again metabolized in liver to inactive metabolites via N-demethylation, hydroxylation and conjugation with the sulfate and glucouronic acid. Next class is glucosidase inhibitor. Alpha amylase and alpha glucosidase are the key enzyme responsible for the metabolism of the carbohydrate. So, alpha glucosidase consists of the maltase, sucrase, isomaltase and glucoamylase is a membrane bound enzyme present in the breast border of the small intestine. So, let us see how this class act. Glucosidase inhibitor delay the process of carbohydrate absorption in the gut. This is the tagline. Carbohydrate glucosidase inhibitor delay the process of carbohydrate absorption in the gut and reduce the postprandial hyperglycemia. All known alpha glucosidase inhibitors are excreted unchanged in the feces. Acarbose is the example of the alpha glucosidase inhibitor. It exists as white to yellowish amorphous powder. It is used in the treatment of diabetes type 2 in combination therapy or second or third line of treatment. Dose is 50 milligram to 100 milligram. Next member is the voglibose. It is used for the treatment of diabetes, specifically for lowering the postprandial blood glucose. So, they are safe. The usual adult dose is 0.2 milligram. So, my dear students, I hope you must have understand the clear picture of the diabetes and its treatment. So, I am finishing my overall discussion in a single line, that I am writing a line: stay healthy. Why I am saying this? Because physical exercise are insulin sparing. So, I hope you must listen my words, and I would like to say thanks for your patience. Thank you very much.